Damn, Ego. Back at it with some new media. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, the official numbers have not been fully tallied, but they have some early warnings that Pacquiao versus Bradley did not do as good as anticipated. In fact, ESPN's Dan Rayfield sent this tweet, and this is what he put. Nothing official yet, but ARUM told me today he expects Pacquiao-Bradley, meaning the third rubber match, pay-per-view, to be between 400,000 and 500K. He termed that not good, #boxing, right? Now, you gotta ask yourself some questions as a boxing fan. Bob Arum, being in the business since the Ali days, for him to tell a accredited ESPN journalist, Dan Rayfield, that it's not good and it's looking like 400. This is not his first rodeo, which is my point. So there's obviously some indication. We don't have the full-fledged number, but I heard Arum said it won't be over 500,000, and it looks like in the range of 400 to 500,000, right? So obviously there's something that leads him to believe that based on the forecast and based on him being in the business over 30 years. So something is leading him to believe. And I kind of want to talk about that. Now, I told you with this new media movement, it's all about being held accountable for what you say, your opinions. Everybody has opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. But what I strive to do as a boxing reporter and journalist is to provide not only my opinion, but if I'm saying certain things that I could base off of fact, that's what I try to do. Now, in the case of Manny Pacquiao versus Tim Bradley, go look at my channel. I tried my best to promote this, and obviously, based on those numbers, it wasn't good enough. I did a first look, it got 43,000. I talked about the weigh-in, 12,000. I talked about the purses for the fight. I said 30,000. Pacquiao showed him training. I did an Ego Weight Watcher, 17,000. Pacquiao body comparison Weight Watchers, 11,000. I talked to former Pacquiao sparring partners, different things like that. But I want to play this for you because this is a video I did talking about, it was an Ego Valley video talking about this particular fight. And this is what new media does. Not only do I talk, I show you the proof. So let me let it cue up. Keep in mind, this video I did publish December 17th, 2015. December 17th, 2015. And let's hear what I said, because it's all about consistency, like I said on my channel. Terrence Crawford is not any longer in the race. He's not considered an opponent for Manny Pacquiao's final fight. Now, the reason this is upsetting is I did an Ego rumor mill video a while ago. A lot of people said, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 right? And I told you that from what I heard, it looks like Timothy Bradley Part 3. The reason that I feel this way, let's break it down. Why I don't personally want to see Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley 3 is I want to see Pac, especially if this is going to be his last final fight. They're saying that in the article, Pacquiao is likely to choose Bradley because he's familiar with him and Bradley's a bigger name. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, since when is it about fighting who you're familiar with? But I'm not on board with the Bradley 3 fight. Bradley's a hell of a fighter, once beaten. His only loss was to Manny Pacquiao. And this is what throws me with a lot of the casual fans. A lot of the casual fans will speak out on certain topics and they'll be outrageous and make these irrational points that come to later bite them in the behind. Because when Bradley beat Pacquiao on paper, a lot of those same casual fans said, oh, and I'm not calling you casual if you pick Pacquiao in that first fight, because I thought Pacquiao beat Bradley in the first fight. I don't think Pacquiao looked sensational, but I would have gave the win to Pacquiao in a closer fight than what people said it was. But my point being, you talk to the casual fans, they go out of their way to belittle, oh, wheelchair Bradley, Pacquiao don't need to rematch him and get his belt back. It doesn't make sense for him to rematch him. Like, how doesn't it make sense to get your belt back when you feel you were robbed, at least on paper, and he has the win over you, right? I mean, I never understood that from a fighter's perspective. Why would that be an okay solution? But using what they say that they don't even need to fight a second time. And then Pacquiao gets to a point in his career where he says, you know what, I'm going to fight Bradley again, right? after the Marquez knockout or whatever. He said, I'm going to fight Bradley again. And then now the fans are on board. All that stuff they did to belittle Bradley, wheelchair Bradley, and all this other stuff, pillow-fisted Bradley, now they're okay and on board with the part 2, which is cool. Set the record straight. Pacquiao wins that fight. So in your mind, Manny Pacquiao holds 2 wins over Bradley. One he wasn't given credit for, but you thought, oh, Bradley got his ass whooped by Pacquiao both times, right? That's what you think. Why do we want to see a rubber match, a third match? It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? I had Pacquiao winning both fights. Again, I don't think he looks sensational. He was fighting in spurts in the first fight, but I thought he did enough to win. And then the second fight, I thought he was losing like the first 5 or 6 rounds, and then Bradley gassed out or changed his game plan or whatever, and then Pacquiao took over and made the adjustments, and I thought he beat him again. So, again, why would I want to see this a third time? Oh, let me guess, because he's with Teddy Atlas. Always check for consistency, like I repeatedly say. A lot of the casual fans, they go out of their way to discredit Timothy Bradley and his performance over Brandon Rios. Oh, he did that against Rios. Rios is a quote-unquote punching bag. Now, that's basically enough. Like I say, always check for consistency. So what you heard in that excerpt from the video from December, before the fight was officially announced, I told you Pacquiao won, in my book, 2 times. So I had no desire to really see the third fight. Fast forward to the future, I think a lot of people held that same, obviously, if the numbers did that, they held that same type of sentiment when it came to that particular fight. So I could have saved Top Rank some money with this particular bout, because you look at it, I did a poll and I said, are you paying for hashtag Pacquiao Bradley this weekend? $69.99 for HD. 13% of the people said yes, 51% said no, I'll stream, and then 36% said no, I'm not even watching it at all. So I don't know, I mean, out of the people that voted, I don't know how many people are serious. I'm sure some people voted no, I'm not watching, and they still watched it. But those poll results, those were not from me. I didn't do that. I didn't doctor it up. Those were from actual fans, and I think it's indicative based on the numbers, 400 to 500,000. You got to look at it. You got to look at it, and I want to break it down a few different ways. One, Mayweather versus Berto. He beat Pacquiao and says, you know, I'm going to ride off into the sunset, fight a 2-time world champion, former world champion, in Andre Berto, who's off a Josecito Lopez win, right? And that was Berto, the beast. And people, they thought it was despicable. Like, how could Floyd do this? The Floyd fight, they said it did about 550,000. And that was a fight that people outright hated. With this particular fight, I don't know if people hated it. I mean, obviously it didn't do that great, but it didn't get the same type of backlash. People still knew it was Bradley, and they had split the first 2 fights. So it just goes to show you, a lot of people are really full of shit. They say, oh, I'm never watching a Mayweather fight again after this fight, or after the Maidana, or after De La Hoya. And he's still doing better numbers against a foe that people were outraged, including the boxing media. They were writing, and this is what new media does. You can hear what I said then, and you can hear what I'm saying now. I told you guys from the jump, I didn't really care for Pacquiao Bradley 3, because I wanted to see a guy like Crawford, a guy like Amir Khan, hell, even Broner, a fresh face, because I already felt Pacquiao did enough to beat Bradley twice. And I think now with this with these early forecasts for the pay-per-view, courtesy of Bob Arum, it just supports that. And you got to look at it. Premier Boxing Champs is putting on free fights. They have a card this weekend, Earl Spence Jr. versus Chris Algieri, the biggest name on his resume, right? On the undercard, you have Krzysztof Golowski versus Steve Cunningham, which is a solid undercard fight. You have you got Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman coming up in the summertime. Undercard, Abnormales Jesus Cuellar. So it's a lot to ask and keep asking fans to pay for a pay-per-view. Now, if Top Rank's talking about Nicholas Walters, Vasyl Lomachenko, maybe, because that's that quality of fight. We've never seen that, even though it doesn't look like that fight's going to happen next. It looks like Vasyl is going to fight Rocky Martinez, or Terrence Crawford, Victor Postol. Maybe that fight will do good. I don't know, but at least it's a fresh face, and it's a fresh matchup we've never seen versus Pacquiao Bradley. And I really knew this was coming, to be honest. And I think Bob Arum and Top Rank felt they could counteract the main event by putting on a fight with Evgeny Gradovich and Oscar Valdez, and then putting Gilberto Ramirez versus Arthur ARUM. But the thing is, it's actually, that made it worse to me, because you look at the fight, and I don't work for Top Rank. I'm not an accountant, but you got to look at certain things. They had a stacked undercard, which is something that Top Rank they're not necessarily known for, just putting on a top to bottom stacked undercard. So the reason that stacked undercards are hard is because when you have named fighters, they have big budgets and you have to pay them a lot. So if your pay-per-view doesn't do good, in fact, I did a purses video, but let me go to the post so you guys can see. And it's on my Instagram. 205 likes. These are the purses. Now, what they said for Pacquiao, they disclosed $7 million, but the report's saying that he's gonna get $20 million for the Pacquiao Bradley 3 fight. Bradley got $4 million. So your main event is already costly. Then Arthur ARUM got a $500,000, $500,000. Gilberto Ramirez got 140. Oscar Valdez 100,000. Evgeny Gradovich another 100,000. So I mean, if you add that up, somebody who's a math whiz, add Evgeny Gradovich, Oscar Valdez up to Pacquiao, and especially since Pacquiao's supposed to be getting $20 million, that becomes hard when your pay-per-view didn't get close to $1 million. You know what I mean? Does 400 to 500,000. So that means usually that somebody has to take a loss. And I don't know if it'll be HBO. I don't know if it'll be Top Rank. I don't know exactly how that works. But if they're guaranteeing Pacquiao $7 million, but he's going to get upwards of $20 million. I even heard reports that he was guaranteed $20 million. Like, it was guaranteed. So if his event is not that successful, somebody's taking an L. And that's just the way the business works, right? And again, I told people from the jump on my channel, it was a hard sell, because Bradley, he got rocked versus Jesse Vargas, and he was looking good, but that is still something that people are going to remember. Then he beat Brandon Rios, and a lot of people didn't give him credit. I gave him credit for that. He looked good, but he hadn't done enough with Teddy Atlas. That was just one fight. You know what I mean? He hadn't done enough, and Brandon Rios is no Pacquiao. You know what I mean? In terms of their styles and what they bring to the table. So he hadn't done enough with Teddy Atlas for anyone to really gauge how improved he was with Teddy Atlas. You know what I mean? If you look at Bradley's always been a great fighter, but he had a tough fight where his face got jacked up with the headbutt versus Diego Chavez, and he got hurt in the 12th round versus Jesse Vargas. So Diego Chavez was a tough fight. Then he fought Jesse Vargas, I believe, got hurt in one round at the end. Then he beat Brandon Rios soundly, and that was the only fight he had with a new trainer. And obviously the trainer Teddy Atlas wasn't able to make any kind of adjustments or the necessary adjustments to give Bradley a convincing L either, because he got knocked down twice, which he didn't get knocked down in the previous fights, and he ended up losing anyway, just like Bradley lost with Joel Diaz as well in the second fight. So I really expected it, to be honest, and I think my videos and my message has been very consistent. And again, it becomes harder and harder when you're getting fights on Premier Boxing Champs free TV, and you're trying to push fights that we've already seen twice. It'd be one thing if Bradley, let's say, I think the only way this third fight would have been really successful is, let's say Bradley fought Amir Khan and beat him. Bradley fought Kell Brook with Teddy Atlas and beat him, and then led into a third fight. But they just off the bat, off of the Rios performance, I guess they thought they could build, and that would be enough to convince people, and by loading the undercard. But you got to look at it. The undercard had good names, a lot of potential future talent. I thought Oscar Valdez looked really good. I thought Gilberto Ramirez looked really good, but they're still not household names at this point. So it's a little bit different. You look at the Mayweather Maidana undercard, they had Adrian Broner, who already had more of an established name than Oscar Valdez and Gilberto Ramirez, and you had Amir Khan on the undercard. So those names definitely helped. You had Danny Garcia on the Canelo Mayweather undercard. You had Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse. Those guys already had names. Lucas Matisse had already fought Zab Judah, had already fought Devin Alexander, had already fought Lamont Peterson. You know what I mean? Danny Garcia had already fought Zab Judah and Eric Morales twice and things like that. So if that's typically what's needed if you want the undercard to save the main event. You know what I mean? You have to have an undercard with like bona fide stars, like people with like big names already. You know what I mean? And I think that's the only way they could have made the Pacquiao Bradley number stronger if Tim Bradley had more of a sensational performance, and also Pacquiao's coming off the Mayweather loss. So you got one guy coming off a Mayweather loss, and then Bradley was coming off a Vargas win where he got rocked at the end, and then the Brandon Rios stoppage. You know what I'm saying? So I think the timing was bad. I think that's why it shoots down the argument that Terrence Crawford wasn't a big star, because I guarantee you, and there's no way for me to prove this obviously, but I guarantee you, and I really feel, if Pacquiao fought Crawford this go around instead of Bradley 3, the numbers would be higher than 400, 500,000. And that's just really my honest opinion. But it's funny how the new media has to make these videos to kind of inform the public, and you don't see more articles, because when Triple G or whoever fighter is being praised gets an Apple deal, shout out to Triple G Gennady, hey no guys, you know what I mean, shout out to him for his new deal. But when something good like that happens, they're the first to report it. But when it's like low numbers, you don't really see many people talking about it. And it's not just media writers, it's also probably YouTube channels and stuff. All the pro Pacquiao people, they probably won't jump on the horn to make a video about these numbers. And again, these aren't great numbers considering the fact that a guy like Mayweather fought Berto, who fans despise that fight, clown the fight, and said it ruined Floyd's legacy and stuff, and that still did better numbers than this. You know what I mean? So it just goes to show you that the boxing fans are getting a little bit, I guess you could say, cheaper. They're penny pinching, and all these pay-per-view fights, it becomes hard. You know what I mean? People want to pick and choose. Like, okay, I'll pay for Canelo Khan. I never seen that. I'm not paying for Pacquiao Bradley 3. You know what I mean? So I guess the companies, the promotional companies, and the people in charge, HBO, the networks and stuff, especially competing against premier boxing champs, they're going to have to really understand and like critique the matches they select. Like I said, I'm not a soothsayer. I can't speak on the future, but maybe people will invest in Terrence Crawford, Victor Postal. You have a better shot of that than the fight that we've already seen, and that's the problem with a recycled fight. And that's just my opinion. People felt Pacquiao, including myself, already beat Bradley 2 times. So it was a hard sell from the jump, and that's what I told you. New media style, I always keep it real with you guys, and I always try to speak from the heart and be truthful. That's why I can do follow-up videos like this. Let me know what you guys think of the Pacquiao Bradley numbers. Kind of try to break it down for you guys. And what's next? I really think Pacquiao Bradley, or excuse me, Pacquiao Crawford or Pacquiao Amir Khan, who they said Amir Khan, HBO didn't want them, or whatever they were saying. I really feel it'll do better numbers, or even this fight. I think Canelo Khan is going to do better than 400, 500,000 based on the demographic from Amir Khan, the UK. He has the support of a lot of the Muslim community and Pakistani community. Canelo has a country behind him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll be here to report it. Drop in the comment section. Let me know what you think of the Pacquiao Bradley numbers. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.